classes and I do my normal live streams, I want to make sure that everything is working properly. So if everybody can hear me okay, let me know down in the chat below if this is going to the right place and everybody can hear me just fine. Awesome, welcome. So I'm super excited to share with you this masterclass tonight on how to break into the blockchain industry as a developer. So what I'm going to do tonight is actually kind of peel back the curtain and share with you all the tips and tactics that I've personally used to break into the software industry, as a developer, as a self-taught programmer with no computer science background, no, fancy college degree specifically for coding or anything like that. I didn't go to a coding boot camp. Completely self-taught programmer, and this is what I've learned and have used to actually break into the software industry, break into the blockchain industry, change those skills. And this is something I've helped other people do as well. People who were brand new coders, never coded before, people who had coding experience, who wanted to transition a career. These are the things that actually work from firsthand experience that I've used and helped other people do as well. So I want to demystify that process tonight, actually show you the landscape about how to do this specifically for blockchain, the programming languages to learn, the skills to learn, and actually how to put it into a concrete roadmap, step by step, where you can follow it and just say, step one, do this wherever you're starting from. Step two, do this, when you finish that, step three, and how to, set this process into place, actually reverse engineer this problem to where you want to go so that you have this concrete roadmap that you can follow. Because this is a question that I get a lot on people. How do I actually do this? This is a great time to get into the blockchain industry. The space has absolutely exploded over the past year. It's been going strong for a long time, but we've definitely seen things really explode as cryptocurrency prices have taken off like a rocket ship. It's one of the best marketing, pieces for blockchain technology at all. When people watch cryptocurrency prices, they automatically say, hey, what's going on with this blockchain thing? There must be something here. There must be something working. And we've seen that over the past year for sure, especially in DeFi. We've seen a lot of people consolidate around these major use cases for Ethereum around smart contracts with decentralized finance. And it's created an absolute gold rush for people who are trying to build blockchain projects that are driving this demand for blockchain developers in this space. So what I want to show you tonight are the paths that I see forward where the most demand is for developers, what the opportunity is like, and how you can put these systems and processes in place to change your career and actually, capitalize on this big opportunity while it's still early. So welcome. All right, so we got people in the chat here. We got Jody, Evan, Campy, Vladlin, Juan Pablo. Welcome, Nick, Colin, Patricia. So let's jump straight in here. So let me give you an overview of what we're going to talk about tonight. Excuse me, I got my water here. I want to make sure that I can, speak clearly. don't want to get out of breath for you all. But let's take a roadmap of what we're actually going to cover tonight. So I'm going to share my screen here. Let me share the right screen. Okay, so what we're going to cover tonight is exactly what I've talked about. The bulk of what I'm going to cover in the class tonight here live is this step-by-step process that you can follow on how to break into the blockchain industry as a developer, whether you're brand new to coding or whether you're an experienced developer already. A lot of this process will look the same depending on where you're starting from, but you might have to spend more time at one phase versus the other, depending on where you're starting from. So an overview of what we'll cover tonight is the process. And then I've got some bonus videos that I'm actually going to share with you tonight, sort of as a parting gift. All right. And those bonus videos and resources are going to be interview questions. Sorry, here. So interview questions that you can use. All right. To actually land a job. All right. And these are things that I have personally used to hire other people. And that's one thing I want to help you all understand is that I've seen every side of this problem. So, like I said, I'm a self-taught programmer. I've broken into this industry. I was already a developer before I got into blockchain, but I've been involved in multiple industries, have been a freelancer, have worked a regular job. And now I'm at the point where I'm hiring other developers. So I'm on the other side of this saying like, hey, what do I look for in people who are just new to blockchain that need to get their first job. Okay. I am in that position where I'm quizzing them and trying to assess what their skills and abilities are. So I have a pretty good idea of, what it takes to get a job from someone who's just applied for jobs and gotten them, or as someone who is trying to figure out whether other people are qualified to work at that level. Okay. So I'm going to share with you some interview questions that'll help you get prepared for that. But I'm going to save those interview questions for a separate video. Okay. Because I don't want to take up too much time tonight going over that kind of thing. You can watch those later. I've given you like a slide deck with lots of interview questions in it. Okay. And then I've given you a bonus video that's going to discuss like how the answers to those interview questions and what I might expect from somebody when they answer those. So if you get that later, definitely go through those slides and quiz yourself on the interview questions before you watch the answers, right? Try to see where your skill level is in answering those questions before you just jump to the answers. But I'm going to include that in a bonus video tonight so that I don't spend up too much time. And then the second thing is, or the third thing is actually going to be a coding challenge. All right, so this is actually a coding challenge that I've personally used to hire another developer. Okay, so this is something I actually did recently. This was a coding challenge that tested their blockchain knowledge to see, hey, can this person do what we need to do inside of our pipeline? Do they possess the skills? They actually test for the real world skills. And you're going to see that in that bonus video as well. It's the instructions that I actually gave someone to hire them to see like, hey, can they do what I need them to do? You're going to see the actual video instructions that I gave this person. And then you're going to see their code solution that was, that basically pulled the sword from the stone and proved their competency so they can get hired for the specific role. So it's sort of like a reality television show in this way where you're seeing real world things that I've used and you're seeing the solution that the candidate actually provided for this particular role. So the reason I'm saying this is you're getting real world stuff tonight. This is not just made up stuff that could theoretically help you get a job. This is what I've personally used myself in getting jobs and also hiring other people. So the second part of this is going to be in those bonus resources like I talked about. If you're inside the membership program, those will of course be included in the video vault along with this video. If you just join the one-time masterclass tonight, you'll get emailed those out in the bonus resources. But what I want to spend most time on tonight is this process right here, because I want to clearly break this down and provide enough time to discuss this and also provide time for Q&A, extended Q&A time to help answer any questions that you all might have who are trying to, take advantage of this opportunity. And so those extra videos and resources, it's about an hour of extra footage that you're going to get emailed out to you or posted inside the membership program. So I didn't want to spend, an extra hour tonight just, giving you that information when you can just go watch that later and use it as a part of your, career development process. I want to really focus on this tonight, the actual step-by-step blueprint on how to become a blockchain developer, and then spend, a good amount of time in Q&A for you all tonight. So let's focus on this, the process of actually becoming a blockchain developer. So we get questions in the chat before we go. So the roll call, awesome. So let's get into this. So the whole goal of what I'm trying to show you tonight is basically how it's the roadmap for landing your first blockchain job. All right, and we're going to reverse engineer this problem and see what does it take. Okay, because people will be coming from different places. Some people will be starting as a brand new coder. Some people will be starting as, having some experience. But let's reverse engineer this problem and see what it takes in order for you to actually, get those, get that first job. Okay. We're going to see a lot of tips and tricks along the way, but let's get a bird's eye view because you want to define exactly what you're aiming at in order to break that down and see what are the steps that you take. So step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, all that type of stuff. Okay. So first of all, you have to define what is a blockchain developer? Okay, because this can mean a lot of things. All right, you'll see this on job boards. Sometimes people will be looking for blockchain developers and you don't necessarily know what that means. So I'm going to break this down into several different categories. So one is going to be like a smart contract developer. All right. Another would be like a front end developer who works with blockchain. Another would be like a back end developer. Another would be like a full stack developer. And another would be like a core developer. So these are probably the most common things that I personally see people hiring for in the marketplace. All right. So what the track that I want to focus on tonight, and I'll tell you why, is mostly this track right here. So why? Well, basically, this is what's going to give you the most unique value in the marketplace. Okay. Because of all the developers that are out there, there's lots of people who are front-end developers. There's lots of people who are back-end developers, lots of people who are full-stack developers, but there's really hardly anybody who are smart contract developers who also have, some of these other skills on the grand scheme of things. There are, thousands and thousands and thousands of front-end developers out there in the world. There are not thousands and thousands and thousands of smart contract developers in the world, okay? So what I'm trying to get you to do is actually get the skills that are the most highly valued in the marketplace, highly sought after skills that are so scarce, because if you acquire those skills, you're going to be in such high demand. Okay. And if you actually get your skills to job ready level, that's going to get you, you're going to be in a really great place. Somebody else says mobile developer here in the chat. That's also true. I'm kind of thinking of that as kind of like front end developer too, like an interface developer, a client side developer. I guess mobile's still, it's its own thing for sure. Yeah, mobile is for sure. But there's lots of other mobile developers out here. It's still the point. So what I want to get you prepared for is basically these core skills right here. So what's it going to do? It's going to get you those core skills that are in high demand, but it's also going to get you skills that give you deep fundamental knowledge about blockchain so that you can, transition into maybe one of these other roles if you really want to, but you'll still have that really core blockchain developer competency that's going to make you valuable and prepare you for these other roles if you decide that you want to, shift towards a front end role and maybe have that smart contract knowledge. It's going to make you very valuable in how you actually understand blockchain. The best way to understand blockchain is to just do it and do the things that work with blockchain the most, which is going to be a smart contract developer. If you know how to create smart contracts, put them on the blockchain, you'll have all the fundamental blockchain knowledge that you need to do all these other things. Okay, maybe outside of core developer, but I'm just going to leave that one alone, mostly because it's such a small world that and it's a pretty high barrier of entry, to tell you the truth, for the amount of things you have to understand to be a really good core developer, that we're going to stick with this, because you can basically develop user-facing applications that are in high demand. Okay, so we're gonna focus on smart contract, the smart contract development track tonight. There's lots of other things you can do. You can focus on front end, you can focus on back end, you can focus on full stack, but I want to sort of go for the throat and look at the most potent skills that are in high demand, and that's what we're going to focus on. All right, so you answer the first question, which is what kind of blockchain developer. So you want to start with specializing. That's the whole key here, is specializing in smart contracts. I think specialization is what makes you valuable. If you're kind of good at 10 things and you're not really good at one thing, you're not as valuable in the marketplace as if you're really good at one thing and then also simultaneously kind of good at a handful of other things. That's what I would rather, most people get good at. And some people say, can you become a blockchain developer as a total beginner? You absolutely can. I've seen people become, blockchain developers who just have a little bit of blockchain knowledge, who are really good at contributing to another team where they might have other developers who are experienced in these front-end roles or back-end roles or full stack roles, but you're sort of like the blockchain person on the team who understands something. I've seen lots of people in that type of situation who are able to get started with hardly any coding knowledge compared to maybe somebody who's been in it for a long time, just because they had a little bit of knowledge in something that's very specialized like blockchain. So that's what we're going to keep focusing on this. Okay. So if you're going to be a smart contract developer, that's going to answer the questions like what blockchain should you pick? All right. So this will be a routine question for a lot of people, but I want to make sure that we're catering to people who are brand new tonight, just to cover some of the fundamentals in case you haven't answered this type of question yet. So I would highly recommend focusing on Ethereum. All right. So why is that? Well, Ethereum is definitely the largest smart contract platform in terms of number of users, number of transactions, where most of the active development is happening. Of course, we have other chains like Binance Smart Chain. Right now, we have, things like Polygon popping up as a scaling solution for Ethereum. There are other sort of layer one blockchains that are trying to become competitive smart contract platforms. But at the time of recording this video, they don't really have, some of them don't have the basic capabilities of the box. Like at the time of recording this video, like Cardano does not have smart contracts. Some of these other layer ones don't have the same traction that Ethereum does. So the reason, the whole point here is there's the most demand for the Ethereum network. And if you're going to build your skills, somewhere, you want to build where there is the most demand right now and has a very high likelihood that there'll be a lot of demand in the future. Because at the end of the day, where you invest your time is very important. Your time is your only non-renewable resource, and you can't really get that back. So I want to steer you in the good direction of where do I see the most demand in the marketplace, and it's definitely for Ethereum right now. Okay. So that being said, so if you're new to that, what programming language should you learn? All right. So in terms of programming languages, you definitely want to, the core of your competency should definitely be Solidity. If you're going to program smart contracts for Ethereum, you're going to learn how to do blockchain. Okay. So why? Well, like I said, you want to specialize and you want to get the most experience where you're going to provide the most value. And Solidity is going to be the number one way in which you provide values. Knowing Solidity. That's what's the backbone of a lot of these DeFi applications that are in such high demand right now. Things like savings and lending apps, automated market maker technology, any kind of decentralized finance app that works with tokens is going to require a strong Solidity competency. I mean, Solidity is in super, super, super high demand right now. So that's the main programming language you want to learn. All right. The benefit of knowing Solidity is that it can be compiled and put onto other blockchains like Binance Smart Chain or Polygon, for example. Any of these blockchains that want to support connectivity to Ethereum or support Ethereum compatible applications. Knowing Solidity will also help you deploy to these other chains. Okay. So while it's primarily intended for the Ethereum mainnet, we do have other solutions that are Ethereum compatible blockchains that basically derive from Ethereum. And so if you understand Solidity, you can write programs for the main place where everything is in such high demand, and then also these other chains that are popping up and are gaining popularity alongside Ethereum. You'll be able to use this skill as well. Okay, so Solidity is the main programming language. I would also say JavaScript would be the next programming language. Okay, so JavaScript is going to be pretty critical for your smart contract development track, because basically you need to have an extra programming language to do other things with your smart contracts. So, you're gonna have to write tests against your smart contracts, which you can do in Solidity, but it's better to write them in a different programming language like JavaScript. You can also do it in Python. But I would recommend JavaScript because you can accomplish a lot just with one extra programming language, especially for beginners. I wouldn't recommend trying to necessarily learn Python with Solidity. I mean, you certainly can if you have a good reason to. But I recommend JavaScript plus Solidity because you can do so much with JavaScript. You can write client-side applications to interact with your smart contract, which you'll need to do, as a Solidity developer. You definitely want to be able to at least create basic interfaces that work with your smart contracts. So JavaScript will be required there. Writing tests against the smart contracts with JavaScript, writing scripts against them. If you want to learn Python and do all this extra stuff, you definitely can. But I highly recommend not getting too bogged down in extra things to learn. I highly recommend staying very focused on exactly what you'll need for the core of your competencies. And so the two main programming languages for this specific track will be JavaScript and Solidity. Solidity being the primary one, JavaScript being the secondary one. So also in that order, you want to be better at Solidity and good enough at JavaScript, I'll put it that way. So there's a question in the chat here. Someone said, do we have to go through the boot camp to become a blockchain developer? So you do not need to go through the boot camp to become a blockchain developer, but it will definitely help. And I'll talk about that here in a minute. And it's one of the fastest ways to do it. Have people go through the boot camp and get blockchain jobs in a relatively short amount of time. The fastest I've personally seen, it was in 2 months. Okay. So those are the programming languages. Now let's talk about how to actually put this into place. So somebody says, what about React.js? So definitely React.js. It's not a programming language, it's a framework. So we'll actually get into those frameworks here in a minute. But let's actually get into, this is just some of the high level questions that I'm just trying to kind of narrow you down on. If you're a beginner, you're trying to figure out what to learn. This is what you should learn. Now let's talk about how to actually put it into place. Okay, I want to give you the step-by-step plan for doing this. These are just some of the introductory questions that you're trying to answer. If you see all this stuff out there, like you're overwhelmed by options, well, here's the answers. Okay, so let's get into the step-by-step roadmap here. So now that you've figured out what blockchain you want to use and what programming languages you want to use, let's talk about how to put together a plan that's going to take you from not being a blockchain developer to being a blockchain developer. All right, because this is the problem that you really want to reverse engineer. So whether you've had a job as a programmer already, or you've never had a job as a programmer, or not even a job at all, this will be somewhat the same approach, but with some key differences, which I'll call out along the way. Okay, so let's just start off with the basics. Okay, so the first thing you have to do in order for somebody to hire you at all is you have to acquire the hard technical skills that someone needs in order to hire you for their business. Okay, so anybody who's going to give you a job basically needs you to be very competent at coding. Okay, I know that sounds pretty basic, but sometimes you have to just get that out there to be clear, because like I said, we're reverse engineering this problem, and some of these things will sound basic, but you have to clear those things up, especially for people who are new. So that's the first thing, is acquire the technical skills. All right, so we talked about what things you need to learn, Ethereum, Solidity, but how do you acquire the technical skills? And this is where the step-by-step plan comes into place. All right, so there's actually a really specific methodology that I prefer for this type of thing. And this is something that I've personally done myself to be as a self-taught coder who's, broken into the software industry and then gone on to break into the blockchain industry this exact same way. This is the same approach that I've used to help other people become regular software developers before I even started doing like online education. And then also the exact methods that I've used to help other people become blockchain developers without any coding experience. Okay, so the methodology here is to essentially learn the programming languages while you're building things. So project-based approach. So what does this mean and why is it important? Well, essentially it means that you're learning the programming languages that you need for blockchain development while you're building things. Okay, so project-based approach. So this answers a common question that I get a lot, which is, should I go out and learn a bunch of programming languages first and then try to learn blockchain? The answer is no. Okay. If you're talking about what's the fastest way to become a blockchain developer, that's not the right approach in my book, because it's like trying to go learn a foreign language by like getting a phrase book or something like that, or a vocabulary book, and then just trying to read the words out of that. Okay. What's the fastest way that anybody will tell you to learn a foreign language? I mean, like a spoken language or a written language. Well, the fastest way to learn a spoken language, a foreign language, is through immersion. All right, actually going into a culture, like moving somewhere and speaking their language. That's the fastest way to do it. So when you're talking about learning coding, that's the fastest way to learn coding, is by actually building things. Okay. And this is kind of scary for a lot of people at the beginning, but what you want to do is start with a project-based approach. So why is that? Well, essentially you want to get excited about what you're learning. You have a positive feedback loop that happens whenever you're actually building a project and you're seeing things come alive in real time. Essentially, when you write code that does something and you see it, build an entire project, you're getting that instant feedback, which gets you excited about the process, and it actually generates momentum. You have a goal in mind. So instead of just learning a bunch of programming languages, doing a bunch of coding, bunch of coding challenges without any context, the payoff for that is way longer. Like, it's going to take you forever to just go out and learn a bunch of ABCs and then put it into practice. It's better to just start while you're actually building something and you get that immediate feedback. So that's the first reason, is that instant feedback. The second reason, so we can put that on here. Let's just do it. Okay, so the second reason is it's more efficient. Okay, because when you're doing this in a project-based approach, you're actually learning, you're getting context. You're seeing when you do something with a programming language, it's actually producing a result, and you learn why that part of the programming language does what it's supposed to do in the context of building something. So for example, when you go look at a programming language and you see an array, or let's take a Solidity example, like a mapping or a variable inside Solidity. Well, instead of just going off and learning what a variable is, it makes way more sense to see what a variable does inside of a smart contract when you're actually building a contract that does something like a cryptocurrency, for example. So if you're building a cryptocurrency from scratch with a smart contract, then you learn why it's important to have variables in the first place while you're building that cryptocurrency, because you see, oh, this variable is what allows me to keep track of how many tokens somebody has. Or when you're seeing how functions work and you code a cryptocurrency and you actually go through the steps of building the transfer function on a cryptocurrency token, like an ERC20 token, for example, you learn how a function works and how all the Solidity works to make that happen. And you have a goal in mind. You get this instant feedback. You're saying, oh, this is awesome. I'm creating a cryptocurrency that can actually put out there in the real world on the Ethereum mainnet. And I learned all the programming languages that I needed to make that happen. And I saw how it all fit together while I was doing that. And that's what the project-based approach does. It's instant feedback. It's exciting. I forgot to put that on there. So it's instant feedback. It's exciting. And it's efficient, all right? Just like learning a foreign language through immersion, all right? So acquiring the technical skills is the first step through project-based learning, all right? So how do you do this? That's the philosophy of project-based learning, but how do you actually do this? Well, like I said, so instead of basically, going off and trying to learn a bunch of programming languages and then go put them together to build something, it's best to just start by building something. So you want to start with something that is designed to teach a beginner how to build a project. And of course, that's exactly what I've done quite a bit on my YouTube channel here. So I can point you towards some beginner resources to help you get started with that thing for sure. Okay. So if you go to, we have plenty of resources inside the Blockchain Mastery program. We have the Blockchain Bootcamp, which I'll get to in a minute. But if you're just talking about, hey, I'm just brand new, I just want to get a taste of something, I want to get the most beginner level course that I possibly can to just try to get my feet wet with these programming languages and see how that works, then I'll point you to this resource here. Okay, so you can go to my YouTube homepage and check out my free Ethereum programming or my free blockchain development courses. So any of these will work. Okay, these are really designed to be more tutorial level projects. They're just there to get your hands dirty, learning the basics of the programming language while you're building something, teaching you the ABCs. Okay. So you can see all those here. All right, you can pick any of these. They'd be a great starting point. All right. So that's the thing. You want to pick something that has a very beginner starting point initially, because they're not all tutorials are created equally, but these are designed for that. All right. So now, if you're not a total beginner, you're a developer already, you can probably skip the initial step of a beginner tutorial and move on to the next step. Okay. So before we get into that, so let's just see here. Quite technical skills, project-based approach. You want a beginner tutorial. All right. And what I would say is you could do multiple of these beginner tutorials that show you different aspects of the programming languages. They're going to teach you Solidity, teach you JavaScript, teach you React.js. All right. And then the next thing you want to do is essentially once you've done at least one of these beginner tutorials or multiple of them to where you start to feel like you're more comfortable, you definitely want to create a tutorial that is more pro level. All right. You want to create some sort of coding curriculum that's designed to get your skills up to a job ready level. Okay. Because these tutorials that I put on here on YouTube, they're great for getting started in blockchain development, to see how it works, to see what the programming languages are like, all that type of stuff. And if you're a developer already, you might be able to just take these and go, land a job. Some beginners might be able to take these and get their skills up to a professional level to land a job. But for I've seen it happen in both cases for sure. But for most people, I highly recommend doing some more guided development that will take you up to that next level for pro level. Okay. And so somebody asked me earlier about the blockchain bootcamp. That's exactly what I designed the blockchain bootcamp for. Okay. So the bootcamp, what it does, sorry, my sphere. Let me just actually want to make this bigger. It changes my text size on me. Okay, there we go. So that's where we find these videos again. I'll actually put a, I'll put a link in the chat here. Here's the here's the playlist for the beginner tutorials somebody was asking about. Okay, so the next thing is for the pro level tutorials for the blockchain bootcamp. So what this is designed to do is actually teach you how to build a real world application that uses, it takes these tutorials and takes them to much more advanced level, to where you build a real world application that you can put out there and put out there in the real world that is more complex than some of these tutorial based applications. It's the kind of application that you would build at a job. Okay. So kind of the question in the chat here, I'm gonna hold off and answer that here in a minute. But that's the next thing. Once you've kind of gotten the introduction to programming languages, you can go into this more pro level tutorial, because inside the bootcamp, what we teach you how to do is build a decentralized cryptocurrency exchange. Okay. And so we teach you how to do that front end, back end with the smart contracts, how to deploy the front end to a web server, how to get it out there in the real world. You'll learn, the advanced technologies like React.js. You'll learn like Redux. So somebody asked me about React.js earlier. You'll get way more into front-end development with React.js inside the blockchain bootcamp. You'll get introductions to technologies like Redux. Okay. You'll get, let's just see here. I'm going to pull up actually a picture of the project that we built inside of there. Let me show you the page that we, let's see here, hold on one second. I'm gonna pull up the project that we built inside of there. Okay. So this is like an example of like the real world project that we built inside the boot camp. So this is kind of blurry, but you get the idea. So it's a decentralized cryptocurrency exchange where you can actually, add Ethereum-based tokens, and people can deposit them into the exchange. They can it has an order book like a traditional exchange, candlestick chart, your history, your account balance, all that type of stuff. And this is way more advanced and sophisticated than these particular tutorials here, the more beginner level tutorials. And this is the type of thing that will get your skills up ready to a job, level. All right. So that would be the next step, is once you've done these beginner tutorials, you can do pro level tutorials like the blockchain bootcamp, for example. Okay. So what I would say after that, let me just kill this arrow because for some reason my text decides to just change on me here. All right, it's gone. So that's going to take your skills to the next level. And so the next thing that you want to do is let's see here. Now, the next thing that I would recommend doing, and you can skip this step if you wanted to, but I think it's a good bonus step after you've built the pro level tutorial like that. And the whole point here is it's a step-by-step tutorial. It's showing you like, write this code, it does this. The next step, write this code, it does this. Next thing I would recommend doing is essentially doing a real world DeFi masterclass. Okay. And we do these, if you're part of the membership program, we have these master classes already inside the video vault. If you're not, you can definitely reach out. We can get you taken care of and get you into a part of that video vault. And also, I should have mentioned before, for the blockchain bootcamp, we've got a link down in the video description below where you can get a 50% off discount to join that tonight if you want to get this step-by-step program on how to become a blockchain developer with the bootcamp and build that pro level application. Okay. And same thing is true for the master classes. Okay. So inside the blockchain mastery program, we have other real world master classes that keep you up to date on other real world DeFi projects. So, so some examples of those would be, I'll just pull it up here. We have these master classes like, the flash loan masterclass. So this is a really hot topic in blockchain on how you can borrow, millions of dollars of cryptocurrency and free with zero money down. So you can use it for things like arbitrage trading, DeFi, whatever. We have the DeFi masterclass, which shows you how to, do yield farming with smart contracts and flash loans on the blockchain. We have a trading bot masterclass that shows you a full stack solution for doing decentralized trading bots, arbitrage bots. We have a yield farming masterclass that shows you how to fork a real world DeFi project, how to use Chainlink, how to build an NFT. So we got lots of great value inside there that'll show you, how to build these other real world projects with blockchain. And those are going to show you the other real world blockchain use cases where you can get that professional level experience. Now, the master classes aren't as step-by-step in their coding approach, in their instructional approach. That's what the blockchain bootcamp is for. The blockchain bootcamp is designed to give you a step-by-step coding program on how to become a professional level blockchain developer, where the master classes are going to give you a crash course on how to do these other types of in-demand things, like how to do DeFi, how to do flash loans, how to do these other things. But that would be a very good next step to see how are people actually using blockchain in the real world to build these types of projects. Okay. So that's sort of a bonus step here. Now, all of these things are guided tutorials. Okay. All these things are guided activities where someone is showing you what to do. So I would say 1.5 is solidify technical skills. Okay, so step 1 is acquire the technical skills. That's exactly how you acquire them. That's the entire bird's eye view, project-based approach. Start with something very beginner friendly. move to a pro level application, do a real world DeFi masterclass, like I showed you in those sections. Okay. Now that like all this stuff, this is a lot, right? So you could be here a little while, especially if you're a beginner, and that's okay. If you're an experienced coder, you could crush through this part pretty fast. Okay. But this is the real important part right here. Okay. Now, once you've done all these guided tutorials and resources, the next step is to actually solidify those. So what you want to do here is basically build something unguided. Okay. So what you want to do is basically think of something that you want to create with blockchain and then write the code yourself without the aid of a tutorial. Okay. And this is where your learning is really going to flourish. This is where you're going to solidify those skills, and actually you're going to turn into a real developer and not somebody who just follows tutorials. Okay. Because at the end of the day, if you want to have the skills to pay the bills, like we talked about before, like the reason why someone would hire you in the first place, that's what they're going to pay you for, is basically really solve problems with code. Okay. You jump in there and be able to do that. So how do you do that? Well, build something unguided without the aid of a tutorial. So what are some ideas that you could do? Well, you could build, you could basically build any type of blockchain application that you wanted to. The easiest way to do it will be to take one of these things that you've done over here, particularly in this pro level application, or a real world DeFi masterclass like I showed you over there, and then give them new features that they don't have already. Okay. That's the fastest way to do it. So if you wanted to take the blockchain bootcamp project, like I showed you a minute ago, see this real world cryptocurrency exchange, you could extend this. Okay. You could create support for more tokens on this exchange. You could add like Chainlink oracles to this exchange to give it more features. You could, integrate flash loans into this to fill orders or something like that. Okay. There's lots of different things you could do. You could mash up all the different skills that you've learned within this ecosystem and to create a brand new project that's built off of something you've already done, where you don't have to completely reinvent the wheel, building something unguided from scratch. That's the fastest way to do it. Okay. The other thing to do would be to build something unguided completely from scratch. Okay. So what are some ideas on what you could do there? Somebody says, could we use these projects for a portfolio? You definitely can use these projects for your portfolio. And I'll get more on that here in a second. So what are some ideas that you could do for building something unguided? Well, you could basically, you could think of anything that you want to build in DeFi. You could build another cryptocurrency exchange from scratch. You could build basically a Uniswap clone from scratch. And sometimes that's actually good. It's try to build something that already exists, and you could basically try to recreate it yourself and then compare how the solution actually looks in the real world, so that if you get stuck, you can reference what they did. But it's sort of like trying to build something and then looking at the answer book later if you get stuck. Now, why is this step is important? Because you're also going to run into walls when you're doing this, but this is where your learning is going to really solidify. You're inevitably going to get into territory where you don't know how to do something. But how do you get unstuck? Well, that's where your real learning comes into place. That's exactly what we've created the blockchain mastery community for, is to help people get unstuck whenever they are, running into these types of issues. So we have, entire support channels in there for people who are going through the blockchain bootcamp, and also the blockchain mastery program. We have, coding specific channels in there where people can ask questions. So if you're inside that membership program already, you've got that access for help people have to get unstuck. You've also got things like Stack Overflow. You know what I mean? You have to Google your way out of problems, all that type of thing. These are the things that are real world skills that actual developers use. And if you get those now while you're building this type of thing, you're gaining the skills that developers are actually using at their job, but you're just doing it before you're employed. Okay. And so that's step 1.5. Now, once you've completed step 1.5 and you have something that, you know, is there, then you're ready to move on. Okay. Then you're ready to start preparing for the job search once you've built this unguided project. And so why is this unguided project so important? Well, like I said, this is where your skills come together. But if you're getting your job, if you're getting your first job, you have a major challenge. So think about this. Think about this paradox. What's the best way to get what do you need to get your first job? Well, you need experience. Okay. Or what do you need to get a job? You need experience. Well, how do you get a job when you don't have experience? That's the real catch-22 that everybody who's brand new faces. So how do you do that? Well, you get experience, just not job specific experience. Okay. You get the experience by yourself outside of a job setting. And that's what self-teaching does. You're able to go get that experience yourself. And when you go create your first unguided project here, you're getting the experience that you would get on the job on your own. Okay. You're bailing yourself out of problems. You're reaching out to others to help you solve your problems. You're becoming, self-reliant as a developer. And that's exactly what that does. You're getting that experience. It's just that you're not getting it at a job. So you get experience, but how do you convince somebody that you have that experience? Okay. Because your first job, you basically need to find somebody to take a chance on you. Okay, so how do you do this? And this is what I'm helping you really break down. You first and foremost, make sure you've gone through every single one of these steps. Okay, you definitely need to go through all these steps. Repeat these steps if you have to. Make sure you're really solid here. But how do you do that? Well, you have to prove that you have the skills. Okay. And so what you want to do is take this step here where you've built something for real, unguided, and you, number one, want to open source it. Okay. So basically you want to take, your code and put it out there on GitHub. Okay. So that's going to show people that you actually know what you're doing. That you have that transparency. You can see the code out there on GitHub, whether this person is a technical hiring manager or not, they're going to see that. Okay. And then the next thing that you want to do is basically create some sort of, first of all, you want to put the code on GitHub. You want to put the project out there live on the web. And that's exactly what I show you how to do in the Blockchain Bootcamp, is deploy your exchange project to the web. And then you want to let somebody actually be able to use it, share a link with your project, have instructions on how they can connect to it with MetaMask so they can actually click through, use it, sign transactions, and see that it's working. Because it's one thing to see the code. It's another thing to be able to just click through, see the app and say, hey, I did this. And then those are the first two steps. And the last thing is you want to create some sort of presence. Okay. Online presence. Okay. And this online presence does not have to be like crazy. Like you don't have to create 100,000 subscriber YouTube channel and like all this type of stuff. You just have to have some sort of presence that sort of presents yourself and sells yourself before somebody talks to you about a job. Okay. And so people who join the Blockchain Bootcamp have access to this, but this is basically a portfolio website that shows everybody. It's sort of a one-stop shop that pre-sells you before you talk to an employer. Okay. So it's a job, it's a portfolio website, it's a resume, it's everything all in one, where you can see like a personal touch of your picture. They can kind of see what you're like, your name, your contact information, all that type of stuff, your past experience. Even if you don't have software development experience, you can just put other past work experience, your education, all that stuff. But here's what you want to do. You want to have your portfolio here where you can see a nice screenshot of the projects that you've built. You can talk about it. They can be able to click through to actually use the project here. You want this to be eye-catching, so when they're scrolling, it sort of entices them to see what it looks like, okay? And actually entice it to click and use your project. You want to have links to the open source code on GitHub here, and you want to just pitch it. You want to pitch yourself. And what this does, this will help you to stand out inside an employer's inbox as well, because the last thing you want to do is send out a resume in a PDF format and get lost, right? So this is a way that you can actually stand out from the crowd who wouldn't take the extra mile and do this type of thing, and sort of like pre-sell yourself whenever you're trying to land that job. So this is sort of the minimum viable web presence that I think you should have to kind of go the extra mile, because when you're talking about someone taking a chance on you for your first job, going the extra mile is going to be a big part of that, okay? Showing that you're willing to do extra, all right? And so they're going to take a chance on you. They need to see that you're going the extra mile, that you want to do more than the minimum. And that portfolio side is also going to prove that you have the skills, okay? Because you can see the projects that you've built for real. You could also put a screencast video inside of this that talks about, how you built the project, what you liked about it, the challenges that you overcame, all that type of stuff. You can put multiple projects inside of here. You can go crazy with this type of thing, just really, 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 really selling yourself, okay? So that's what you need after you have solidified the technical skills to prepare for the job. So you've got to have that thing that proves that you have the skills, which is the portfolio piece, at least one real world project that you built yourself unguided because you learned the skills and you can show somebody that you know what you're talking about. And then you need to present that information that's going to help you stand out and go that extra mile. That's what the portfolio also does. Okay. So next, let's see here. So next, how do you take a chance on you? How do you get someone to take a chance on you? Well, you're going to greatly increase the likelihood that someone takes a chance on you by talking to as many people as you possibly can about getting your first blockchain job. Now, I'm going to tell you a hard reality, okay? And the hard reality is you're probably going to get turned down from at least like one job. So another way of saying that is the first thing you apply for, you either might not hear back from somebody or you might just get turned down like outright, okay? It's just an unfortunate reality of the job hunt. You're probably not just going to get the first thing that you apply for, okay? You might get lucky. I hope that happens to you, but I want to just, shoot you 100% straight. And, not everybody wants to hire a beginner, okay? But there definitely are people out there. Trust me, I've done it. I've seen other people do it, but not everybody wants to do it. So how do you get somebody to take a chance on you? Well, you look for as many jobs in as many places as possible. And the great thing is online these days is the primary way that people hire. Blockchain is very remote friendly. The entire software engineering industry is very remote friendly. And so you have a luxury of being able to, apply to lots of different places who are willing to hire remote talent. If you're really wanting to get into blockchain and you don't even say you don't like working remotely, or you're willing to relocate just to, just to get your foot in the door that way, that's another option. Is you could look for a job that requires in-person developers and relocate for that, assuming it was a dream job or a job that really helped you get your foot in the door. But you should still apply for lots of different places online. So that's what I would say. Definitely online is going to be a huge watering hole for leads for jobs. And then also basically applying for as many as you possibly can, because inevitably not everyone wants to hire a beginner. Inevitably, you're probably not going to get the first thing you apply for, but you're going to greatly increase the likelihood that you're actually going to get a job by applying for lots of different things. Okay. Now, so let's talk about rejection, because if you don't get that first job, or let's say you get into an interview and you don't get a job offer. First of all, some people say, when should you apply for jobs? That's a frequently asked question. So I would say as soon as you have all this stuff, as soon as you've done this and you have built something for real and you have, built a portfolio, okay, then I would start applying for jobs like instantly. Okay. So even if you don't feel 100% ready. So why is that? So you're probably going to face some rejection, but if you can get clarity from the person that's supposed to be hiring you, why you didn't get the job. Now, truth is not everybody will tell you, but if you can get some clarity, that will help you find out what you actually need to improve upon so that you can go work on that before you try to reapply for jobs. Okay. But you might get lucky and someone else might hire you anyway. All right. So let's also talk about here when you're applying for this job, what your expectations should be. So if you're just trying to get a job as fast as possible, one way that you can definitely get your foot in the door and get someone to take a chance on you is to work for a reduced rate initially. Okay, so if you're already a developer, you're just breaking into blockchain, you're valuable, you might be able to start in a really great high paying job. And if you're a beginner and you're a total hotshot, you're a great blockchain developer just out the gate, you might even be able to start off with a really good paying job. And blockchain is one of the highest paying fields in tech. I think anybody who wants to be in blockchain long term, who's in this program, watch these videos and can get that first job, can definitely eventually work their way up into getting a great, highly paid blockchain job. But if you're just trying to get started and you want somebody to take a chance on you, you can compromise on taking a lower paying job just to get your foot in the door and get started. So you have to think about it this way. The benefit that you're getting there is experience. Okay. You're getting experience. It's a form of payment. Someone's willing to take a chance on you. You can work for a reduced rate. And if you go in there and kill it and you show that you can actually provide that value, you can get, you could negotiate a raise probably pretty fast, or you could just get that experience that you need in order to get a highly paid job, and then just apply for that more highly paid job while you're working your job that is more of a beginner level pay. Once you've got that critical experience that you need for your resume, because at that point, you're not trying to get somebody to take a chance on you anymore. You're just, you've got that first job experience and you've crossed this gap that most people are trying to cross right here. Okay. But the key is getting that first person to take a chance on you. And another key bartering chip that you have is the willingness to work for a reduced rate in order to get started. Now, another way that you could potentially get someone to take a chance on you without, just taking a job that maybe pays a little bit less is you could start freelancing. Okay. And I think somebody asked me about this in the chat here, and this is a strategy that will definitely work, which is, you can work a regular job and then also start freelancing in blockchain on the side. Maybe it's not a developer job. Maybe you already have, a quote unquote real job in a different industry and you want to change careers. Maybe you have a very entry level job somewhere else, that you might have some flexibility. Let's say, you work in hospitality, maybe, something like that, restaurant industry, something like that. You have flexible hours and can do, you can work on blockchain development and then do freelancing, on the side or in a supplement to your regular job. That can also give you actual real world experience that you might need if you want to land a full-time job somewhere. Maybe you want to become a full-time freelancer. Maybe that's your goal too. That's also a viable way to do it, is to do freelancing while you're working a different job, even if it's not in software engineering. So those are definitely some pretty core strategies on how to get started. Let's talk about where to actually look for jobs, okay? So there are lots of different places to look for jobs. Let's see here. They're the normal ones like Indeed.com. So I've personally used Indeed to hire developers. Okay, I've put job postings out here and hire developers through this way. Okay, it's not a blockchain specific job site, but there's lots of blockchain developer jobs on there. You can look at the website like ZipRecruiter. Okay. You can look at, let's see here. You can look at monster.com. So basically anywhere where people find regular tech jobs or just any job, Glassdoor, Indeed, you can use these same websites to look for blockchain jobs. Okay. So let's talk about actual blockchain specific websites. So there's cryptojobslist.com. Okay. This is a crypto job specific website. You can find Ethereum specific jobs. You can filter by developer. You can filter by Solidity specific jobs. Okay. You can see all these different jobs in here. You can look on, let's see here. Let's see, cryptocurrency jobs, what is the other website? You can look at cryptocurrency jobs. All right. You can also look at, there's one more, hold on. There's one more, hold on one second. I would start with these two for sure though. These are probably some of the most popular crypto specific job websites. So there are other ways of getting a job too. So if you want to become a freelancer, probably the easiest way to get started if you want to get some experience is upwork.com. Okay. Is Upwork, you can basically just go create a profile, get started really fast. As a freelancer, you of course have to build some reputation on there, and there's some strategies for getting your first freelancing job. You can work for a reduced rate, like I talked about before, just to prove your skills. The key is definitely to interview with people and let them know what you can do. I've hired lots of people on Upwork for short-term jobs and even long-term jobs. So Upwork's a great place. Even if you want to get a long-term job, sometimes there are full-time remote contracts on there available. So Upwork's definitely a great place to get some of those jobs as well. Somebody says crypto.jobs. I think that's actually the other one I was thinking of. Yeah, crypto.jobs. So Upwork is a way to do it. Now, there are other tactics, and these have been less viable over the past year as, we've been kind of in the global pandemic, but meetups and conferences are starting to happen again. Okay. So going to meetups and conferences, once you've deemed it safe to do things in person, maybe you already feel that way. Maybe you're vaccinated. Maybe your area is like opening up again. So if you're in that category, conferences are starting to happen again. Meetups starting to happen again. And when you go to those things, you can network with people organically and show them what you can do. I mean, I've been at meetups where people are just saying, hey, we're hiring like right now, come talk to us. Okay. And it may not be the right fit for everybody. But somebody asked me like, how long does it take to become a blockchain developer? I did this video on my YouTube channel with Cosimo, who did the blockchain bootcamp. He got his first blockchain job in 2 months. Okay. As fast as I've personally seen it happen. But you can actually go to this student success stories page here on my YouTube homepage and see some of these interviews. So Cosimo got a first blockchain job in 2 months. Ben did the same thing, no coding background. But both of them went to meetups, I believe, to get their first blockchain job. Basically talking to people what they could do, showing what they could do. Blockchain's in such high demand, such a scarce skill set that lots of people, once they get a feel for who you are, what you can do, will take a chance on you, especially at meetups. Okay. It's a powerful, powerful way to find a first job. It's how I got my first coding job as a freelancer, was going to meetups and talking to people there. So that's another thing I'll say, is that basically relationships are the most powerful way to get your first job. And a lot of people get jobs just because they know somebody who can connect them. But I'm doing this strategy mostly assuming you don't know anybody in the industry, assuming that you don't have these connections, assuming that you don't have the knowledge. You can still, break in without all that. But if you have the knowledge, if you have the connections, if you have the ability to go to these meetups, all that type of stuff, those are huge, huge, huge bonuses. And I think it's going to really accelerate your results here. So now, let's talk about another step. So before you get the job, before you search for the job, there's another step that I should have mentioned. Okay. So before you go to apply for the job, you might want to do a little more prep work once you've got those core things. And the first thing that I'll say, these are two things that you can review, and they are in the bonus sources of this video. Like I said, I wanted to keep our time, relatively brief here tonight to give you this concrete step-by-step plan on do this, then do this, the absolute roadmap to become a blockchain developer, because I want to do some Q&A here in a minute. But I do have some bonus resources here. It's about an hour of content that's going to help you prepare for the job. So the first thing are interview questions. All right, the second one is actual coding challenge. All right, so I've got the interview questions here, but I have put them in inside. I put an entire bonus video and also the interview questions as a download file that you can grab. And I would recommend looking at these to kind of test your knowledge before you start applying for jobs, because this is really going to help you. Okay. And some of these questions are ones that I've personally used to interview other people, okay, to kind of test their knowledge. And these interview questions are not designed to be a comprehensive check of everything that you need to know. So someone here says, I've been coding for 20 plus years. That's awesome. So if you've been coding for 20 plus years, then these interview questions are definitely going to help you. And the coding challenges are going to help you, which we'll talk about in a minute. So, and some people there's a wide range of experience here. Some people who are already coders already, they may not need to go through all these steps, but if you're at that, people who are coders already, still highly recommend going through this part, going through the pro level tutorial, and then building something for real past the pro level tutorial before you start applying for that job. But these interview questions will help you. Sorry, I got off on a tangent there, but the point of the interview questions is not to be a comprehensive test of all your knowledge. I can't, you can't really write interview questions that test if somebody knows everything that they need to know about blockchain. What the interview questions are designed to do is to be like a random sample of different things that you would expect someone to know who has the basic skills required to become a blockchain developer for their career. Okay. So for example, we start with the beginner questions, which are pretty basic. Okay. We move towards intermediate questions that are specific to Solidity. We look at some code specific questions in there. All right. So I've got the questions in this slide deck, which I'll provide the download links for in the replay section, and also the email that goes out if you just join the one-time masterclass tonight. So I highly recommend you look at those. They don't have the answers in the slides, but the answers will be in a bonus video where I go through and talk about each interview question and sort of like the answer that I would expect and why. Okay. And then so the last thing before you prep for that job search is going to be the coding challenge. Okay. So the coding challenge there's a bonus video that describes this coding challenge. This is a coding challenge that I personally used to hire somebody for this specific job. And I've actually given you a video that contains the actual video that I sent to the candidate with the expectations that I had for them when they were applying for this job. So it's like a reality television scenario where you're getting the exact thing that I sent to this candidate to get hired for this role. And what this thing does is it tests your knowledge of Solidity. It tests your knowledge of front-end development. It tests your knowledge of, DeFi, of how to interact with real-world apps on top of the blockchain, how to use Ethereum-based tokens, how to do all that stuff inside this specific technical task, and this is the actual solution to the technical task that the candidate provided who landed the job. Okay, so I'm including both of these things in the bonus resources. I'm not going to go over them extensively tonight, so I want to save time for Q&A, but I did want to mention that those are two bonus sections that are about an hour long, so about as long as we've been going tonight. An hour long prep for you when you're trying to land that job, the things that you can use to prepare before you start that search to help kind of understand whether you're ready for that type of thing. So that's a pretty general overview of the step-by-step roadmap that has worked for me. It's worked for other people who I've helped become programmers before I got into blockchain, before I started doing online education. It's the same approach that I've used for people who want to become blockchain developers from scratch. Like I said, Cosimo did this, Ben did this, all these other people did this. Some people in a matter of months, some people, takes longer, depends on how much time you have. But this works. This is a concrete step-by-step roadmap. Everything we've done in some of these programs is designed to help you accomplish these goals, to do project-based learning, to have these beginner tutorials, to have the pro-level tutorials, the real-world master classes. And I want to do this career master class tonight to help you put it all together and see how do you synthesize all this educational material and put it into an action-based plan to get results. And that's exactly what I'm trying to show you tonight. And so now what I want to do is actually move into a Q&A time to answer any questions that you all might have. If you're trying to get your first job, now is your time to, drop your questions in the YouTube chat here. Let me know what you think. And yeah, I'll try to shed some light on that. So I'll go ahead and start with a Q&A, a frequently asked question that I get all the time. I'm sure someone will even ask it, so I'll go ahead and answer it before someone asks it. One of the most common questions I get is, how long does it take to become a blockchain developer? Okay, so there really is no set answer to this. It depends on lots of things. It depends on how much coding experience you have in the past. It depends on how much time you have available to learn. Are you able to just learn full time? Do you have a job right now? If you do have a job, do you have a family outside of your job? Can you only devote an hour a day? Can you, devote more time to that? So it really depends. So pretty much anybody, no matter where you fall on that spectrum, though, I would say, for most people, I would just set a goal. If you're starting from scratch, for most people, I would just set a goal of like 1 year. You know what I mean? And part of it actually matters less about the actual amount of time it takes you than it does to have a goal. Because there's a funny thing about work is it tends to give the time that you, like, it tends to fill the amount of time that you give it. And just having a goal puts an anchor down on the map to say, hey, this is what I'm working towards. You know what I mean? You want to have something you can pace yourself out for, okay? So some people could do it way faster than that. Like I said, Cosimo got his first blockchain developer job in 2 months with basically no coding background. He had some, cybersecurity background, all that type of stuff, but was not a coder before he did the blockchain boot camp. He did have quite a bit of time to devote to it during those 2 months, but it's still very, very fast. Okay, so some people could do it. Maybe some people don't have that much time. Maybe they could do it in 6 months. Okay, maybe you could do it in 9 months. Maybe you do it in less. But for most people, I would try to put a category of a year just to have some sort of goal in mind. What if it takes you longer than that? Honestly, like, do you care if you're able to, make a massive career change, make a life-changing income compared to what you have now, potentially? Do you care if it takes you longer than a year? Probably not, as long as you get there. And that's what I would say about that. So there's a question in the chat says, how do I gain recognition when you find a crypto project you want to support? So I'm guessing the question here is, if you want to contribute to a crypto project, how do you let them, or how do they let you do it? I'm assuming that's the question here is. So if that's the question, then I would, if they're open source projects, what I would do is find open source projects that you want to contribute to, and then just go start contributing to them. I mean, you can literally go there, GitHub, open pull requests, even on simple stuff, even if it's just like updating their README file, something that can get their attention to where you can start having conversations with them on GitHub, and get their attention that way. That will open the door to conversations. It's not guaranteed to work on everything. And that's the other thing is I wouldn't single down too much and say, this is the exact project I want to work on. You might be able to do that. But if you do this strategy on multiple projects, there's a high likelihood that, one of them will actually let you contribute to something. Okay. So I would just start contributing. That's the whole point. Like, even if it's basic stuff like updating their README, if you see something in their code that needs housekeeping, if you see GitHub issues open, if there's a way that you can contribute to that, that's great. How do I get data into the blockchain? Is this called Oracle? Is there a quick reference guide, resource link in the blockchain membership to dive into? Yes. I will point to that right now. So I would definitely, or well, you could look at the Chainlink Masterclass. Okay. So the Chainlink Masterclass is right here. You can go look at that. Or you can also look at one of the tutorials on YouTube that we did. The Chainlink blockchain game shows you how to get data on the blockchain through Chainlink as well. So if you look at this, free blockchain development courses, there's a Chainlink blockchain game here that will also show you to use Chainlink oracles. Okay, so let's see here. What are the best ways to interact with other blockchain developers? Good questions to ask, and what are questions you should stay away from? That's a good question. I mean, if you're talking about trying to acquire technical knowledge, I would just try to ask people how to solve problems that you're currently focusing on. And then I would try to, if you can, find ways to add value before you ask for help, if that's possible. So the best way to get help is just to provide value first and kind of, show that you're not just trying to extract value from every relationship, but trying to, connect with people, like kind of get them to like you. And most people are willing to help people that they like. I'm not sure I would, I wouldn't necessarily think of questions to stay away from, just common sense stuff. Somebody said blockchain only for coin or build on ETH. I would build, if you're trying to build a cryptocurrency, I would definitely build a smart contract version. Somebody says if you put a project that we want to build live on mainnet, is setting to OpenZeppelin the best options for security audits? You don't have to use OpenZeppelin. You could use lots of other auditing services. You could, there's Trail of Bits, there's Pepper Security, there's lots of other ones. So somebody says, I'm having trouble finding ways to monetize a new blockchain skill set I learned, finding issues with marketing myself. So yeah, I would go back and make sure you got all these things solid, that you've got the portfolio, that you've got something that can show the skills. And then part of it is that volume game that I talked about. So not everybody necessarily is willing to take a chance on the first person, take a chance on somebody. And sometimes you have to apply from multiple places before you can sort of get that, first chance. Somebody says, I've done the free course on YouTube, but always had an error on some sort. doing the web page part. How should I try to learn it, solve it? So if you have a specific question on the YouTube tutorials, we do have support for that inside the Blockchain Mastery Slack channel. Okay. So you can hop in there and actually go to the coding channel. So we do have support for the YouTube tutorials inside of there. Okay, let's see here. Should I find a team of other new blockchain devs is in a crypto community to work with? Doesn't have to all be noobs. You could, I mean, I'm trying to think here. Yeah, I would try to find places where people can help you actually acquire the knowledge that you're looking for. And that kind of goes back to what I was talking about before. You can contribute to open source projects. You could, try to get your foot in the door somewhere. If you're going to do that, like I said, the best way to do it is have all those steps taken, in place, and then trying to apply for as many places as possible. You don't want to rely too much on one specific opportunity in order to get that first chance. So when building a DeFi app, is there a security pattern we should adhere to outside of basic HTTPS, auth, access tokens, two-factor auth? I mean, it's talking about the front-end application will be about the same as any other web application. But in terms of security audits, you definitely want to have your code audited before going to mainnet. So what are some of the common pitfalls that many new and upcoming developers go through, and how does one overcome them? So I would say, if you're talking about applying for jobs, I would definitely say, so let's say some pitfalls. I'm trying to give a good answer here, so I want to make sure I answer properly. I think a lot of developers, new ones, kind of give up too early when they're trying to break in, because it does take time to learn the skills. Everything I've talked about here, it's not an overnight thing. I've talked about the sort of the timelines that you should expect for something like this. But yeah, I think a lot of people just give up too early before they try to really go for the throat and get to this. And I think also, talking about having to basically, face rejection and implement that feedback to getting better. A lot of people don't want to do that. And that's sort of like a bias in your brain. It's like, I don't like rejection. I don't want to go through that. But sometimes that's what's necessary in order to get that first job. So what are some approximate salary ranges that crypto developers are paid in the market right now? So it's pretty wide range, depending on what your skill level is, all that type of stuff. Let's see here. Also what the job is. I mean, for the national average in the United States is over $150,000 a year. We've got people who are making a lot more than that on the higher side of things. We're kind of skewing that average, but there's people making a lot more towards the lower six-figure range as a mean. Of course, it's the United States. Your mileage will vary depending on where you live in the world. But like I said before, if you're just a beginner, you're just trying to get your foot in the door, you can definitely work for a reduced rate to get started. So that would not put you in that category. But at the end of the day, what you want to do is start applying for places and then see what they are actually going to offer you. And so at the end of the day, you really want them to give you a salary offer first so that you can get an idea of what to expect, and then you can counter in that negotiation. And that will also help you figure out, like, hey, is there a way for me to negotiate a lower rate here in order to get my foot in the door? Do I ever see this industry becoming oversaturated, or there'll always be need for blockchain developers? So the demand for regular software developers has not become oversaturated. So there's still plenty of demand for mobile developers, web developers, full stack developers, front end developers, all that type of stuff. Some of those things have gotten a little more saturated than others, but there's still pretty much any developer job is still well paid. Blockchain, I don't see that. I do not see the demand outpacing the supply. Excuse me, I don't see the supply of developers catching up with the demand for blockchain developers anytime soon. It's just the demand is increasing so fast compared to the supply. You know, I've trained thousands of people to become blockchain developers. That's not even making a dent in the demand for blockchain developers. So part of the question probably is like, hey, is it like risky to bet my career on this? I mean, from a saturation perspective, I mean, of course, there's always risk in what's going to happen with blockchain long term, but I don't see a situation where like it's just going to become oversaturated because people flood the space. So being a Dappen University student has changed my life, helped me learn so much. Awesome, awesome. So I'm excited. Hope we can get you that first job. All right, so if Steven got any more questions in the chat here, we'll go ahead and wrap it up here in a few minutes. Maybe give us a 5-minute warning here. Got any more questions? So it says, when is it a good idea to enter a hackathon? That's a good question. You know, if a hackathon has a pretty cool prize associated with it that you think that you can benefit from, then definitely that's, if you've got the skills. Also, hackathon's a great way to get to network with other people, and hackathons are even a viable way to get a job. I didn't talk about that very much tonight, but that's definitely a viable way to get a job as well. Is there anywhere to find a reference for Solidity syntax? Yeah, I would honestly just look at the Solidity documentation. So solidity.readthedocs.io. So I'll put a link to that in the chat here. Somebody said talking about issues interfacing with the different Solidity versions on the mainnet. No, there shouldn't be any issues. Somebody says the course gave some 6 skills and it's changing my life. Awesome, awesome. That's good to hear. Awesome, of course. Glad to help. Hope everybody here, gets that first job they're looking for and totally changes their career. All right, everybody. So that's all I got for tonight. Really enjoyed this masterclass. Again, you're going to get a replay link. If you join the one-time class tonight, email out. It's probably tomorrow. If you're in the blockchain mastery program, you'll of course get a video replay link posted in the video vault, along with those bonus resources that I talked about. So those interview questions, the coding challenge, and the bonus videos that accompany those. So that's all I got for tonight. Check out that whenever it comes out, and I'll talk to you soon.